The first time she said my name, it didn't sound like anyone else had ever said it before. Soft, drawn out, as if she was testing the shape of it, deciding whether to keep it. We were the last two left in the studio that night. The others had gone hours ago, leaving the hum of the old ceiling fan and the smell of turpentine hanging in the air. She was bent over a canvas, sleeves rolled up, streaks of paint on her wrist that caught the light every time she moved. I wasn't supposed to stay, but I didn't leave. "Evan," she said again, without looking up this time. Her voice had that kind of calm that hides everything underneath, like a lake that looks still until you realize the current's strong beneath. I pretended to check the brushes, even though I'd cleaned them twice. She noticed. She always did. "You don't have to wait around," she said. "I'll lock up." I should have gone, but the sound of her voice was magnetic. "I don't mind," I said. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach her eyes, but makes you want to be the one who changes that. For a while, neither of us spoke. Just a brush against canvas, her steady breathing, the low whine of the fan. I remember thinking how unfair it was that the air around her felt different, heavier, charged, like the moment before rain. She was older, yes, but not in a way that made her distant. It was in her stillness, the way she looked at things before speaking, as if she'd already lived the conversation twice. I caught myself watching her too long, more than once. She caught me, too. Her eyes met mine through the reflection of the studio window. "You're staring again," she said quietly. I froze. "Sorry, don't be." She turned then, her hand still on the brush, a trace of paint on her cheekbone like a misplaced secret. Something in the air shifted. The space between us didn't feel empty anymore. I stepped closer to hand her a rag. Our fingers brushed once lightly. It was enough. My chest tightened. She didn't pull away. "You should be careful," she said, voice low now. "People notice things." "What kind of things?" Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "Things that don't need explaining." The fan ticked. Her perfume, something faintly floral, grounded with cedar, mixed with paint and dust. It was the scent of her, composed, undone only in small ways. "Clara," I said, testing her name out loud for the first time. She looked up almost startled. The brush in her hand stilled midair. "Don't," she murmured. "Don't what?" Her mouth curved, not quite a smile this time. "Say it like that." I didn't know what she meant until I heard myself. How the sound of her name came out softer, more certain than I intended. The silence that followed was too full. Every sound, the fan, the soft scrape of her shoe against the floor, seemed amplified. She set her brush down, wiped her hands, and turned toward me. Close enough now that I could see the fine line of gold around her irises, the tiny scar just under her lip. "Evan," she said again, almost whispering, "you can't tell anyone about this." My breath caught. "About what?" She didn't answer, not with words. Her hand reached for mine, then stopped midway, hovering. A half-second decision. Her eyes searched mine, like she was looking for permission or maybe forgiveness. And then, the door creaked open. We both froze. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. She let go first. Her hand slipped back to her side, the calm mask returning, but the air didn't forget. Neither did, I thought the next day. She acted like nothing had happened. No mention of the way her voice had dropped, or how close we'd been before the door opened. Just a brief nod when I walked in, a faint "morning, Evan," and she was already back to her canvas. But the air between us had changed. Everything else in the studio was the same. The smell of paint thinner, the uneven hum of the fan. But she wasn't just my instructor anymore. She was something I couldn't name without ruining it. I tried to focus on stretching a new canvas, but I kept glancing over. Her hair was still damp from a quick shower, a dark strand stuck to the curve of her neck. She brushed it back absently, leaving a faint streak of color on her skin. It was the kind of imperfection that made her too real to look at for long. "You didn't sleep much," she said suddenly, not looking at me. I froze. "You can tell." Her brush paused. "You got that look. Too much thinking." I hesitated, thinking about the painting. She gave a small laugh, quiet, knowing. "Sure you were." Her tone wasn't teasing exactly. More like she understood something I wasn't ready to admit. We worked in silence for a while. I could feel her moving behind me, the sound of her footsteps, the soft rustle of fabric. When she passed, the faint warmth of her body brushed against my back. Just a second, enough to make every nerve in me tighten. "Why did you stay last night?" she asked finally. I turned, caught off guard. "I don't know. I wanted to help." She wiped her hands, leaned against the table, arms crossed. "That's not why." There was no accusation in her voice, only curiosity. "I guess I didn't want the night to end," I said quietly. Something flickered across her face. Regret, maybe, or memory. My ex-husband used to say things like that. She murmured, almost to herself. Then he'd leave anyway. The honesty in her tone hit harder than I expected. She looked away quickly, as if she hadn't meant to say it out loud. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be." Her voice softened. It was a long time ago, but the way she held her arms tighter around herself said otherwise. For the first time, I saw past the composed exterior, the quiet strength that wasn't always enough to keep the loneliness from seeping through. And maybe that's why I couldn't stop watching her. Not because she was beautiful, but because she seemed so good at pretending not to need anyone. She caught me staring again, but this time she didn't look away. Instead, she stepped closer, close enough for me to feel the warmth of her breath when she spoke. "You really shouldn't look at me like that," she whispered. "How should I look at you?" She smiled faintly, eyes lowered. "Like I'm your teacher." Her hand rested on my shoulder as she said it. Light, deliberate, her fingers lingering just long enough to contradict her own words. The moment stretched. The smell of paint, the slow tick of the clock, her pulse visible just beneath her jaw. Everything blurred around that one touch. Then she pulled her hand away, too suddenly. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said, already turning back to her easel. But her voice shook slightly, and she didn't start painting for a long time. Thursday evening, the studio was crowded, a gallery preview night. People drifted between canvases, glasses in hand, talking too loudly about color and composition. I'd been helping set up since noon, but my eyes kept finding her through the crowd. Clara looked different tonight. Her hair pinned up, a black dress that didn't belong in paint-stained rooms. She moved through the noise with that quiet control of hers, polite nods, half smiles, but her eyes kept returning to mine, brief and guilty. When the crowd thinned, she found me by the supply room. "You shouldn't be back here," she said softly. I know." She closed the door behind her anyway. The muffled sound of laughter from the hallway faded, leaving only the thud of music and the sound of her breathing. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "They'll talk, if they notice." I took a small step closer. "Notice what?" Her eyes lifted. "That you look at me like that." The words hung there unsteady. I tried to speak, but my throat felt tight. "I don't mean to." "Yes, you do." Her tone wasn't sharp, but tired, like she'd spent the whole night trying not to think the same thing. I reached for one of the frames on the shelf just to do something with my hands. "You think I care what they say?" "You should," she said. Then softer, "Because I do." She wasn't looking at me now. Her reflection caught in the small window pane, the faint curve of her jaw, the tension in her shoulders. I took another step. The air seemed smaller, warmer. Then why close the door? Her silence said everything. Outside, someone laughed again, too close this time. The handle of the door rattled. Clara flinched. A young intern's voice came through. "Clara? You in there?" She straightened immediately, her voice smooth again. Just a second. We stared at each other, both of us frozen in that half space between impulse and consequence. Then she turned, opened the door a crack. "Be right out," she said lightly, then closed it again before the intern could answer. Her back pressed against the door for a moment, eyes closed. "This is stupid," she whispered. "Then stop me," I said. She didn't. Instead, she exhaled, her breath uneven. I moved closer, close enough that my arm brushed hers. Her perfume was faint now, just skin, warm and clean. "Evan," she said, almost a plea. "Don't." But her hand reached up anyway, fingers brushing my collar, as if to steady herself. The touch was small, but my whole body reacted. Heartbeat too loud, breath too short. We were inches apart. Her lips parted, her eyes flicked to mine, then to my mouth. And then her phone buzzed. Loud, sharp, splitting the silence. She jerked back, fumbling for it. A name flashed on the screen. Her ex-husband. For a second, she just stared at it. The color drained from her face. "I have to take this," she said quietly, without looking at me. I nodded, stepping back, trying to breathe. She hesitated at the door, then turned once more. "You shouldn't wait for me," she murmured. But her eyes said something else entirely. And even after she walked out, the air where she'd stood still felt warm, like she hadn't really left. Later that week, the storm came in just before closing. The kind that turns daylight gray and makes the city sound far away. Everyone else left early. Only Clara and I stayed. She said she wanted to finish something, and I said I'd wait, though neither of us pretended that was the real reason. The rain hit the windows hard, echoing through the empty studio. She stood by the easel, staring at a half-finished painting she'd already wiped out twice. "It's not working," she said. I crossed the room slowly. "It looks fine." She gave a quiet laugh, weary. "You always say that." "Because it's true." She turned to me then, hair loose, a few strands damp against her neck from the walk-in. There was something raw in her eyes, like she'd been holding her breath for days. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice softer than before. "I know. Then why are you?" "I can't stop thinking about you." The words came out before I could pull them back. They hung there between us, alive and dangerous. Her face changed, not shocked, just tired, like she'd known it was coming. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't make this harder. I'm not trying to." I stepped closer. "You just, Evan." She cut me off, but didn't move away. "You're young. You think this means something now, but it does." She shook her head, breath catching. "You don't know what it costs." Her hand came up, maybe to push me away, maybe to steady herself, and her fingers brushed my chest instead. My pulse stuttered. Neither of us spoke. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, it was too quiet. I reached up, almost without thinking, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. My hand lingered. She closed her eyes, just for a second, long enough to undo me completely. "Clara." She opened her eyes again, and something in her gave way. All that restraint cracked. "I hate that I wait for you," she said suddenly, voice breaking. "That I look for you when you're not here." I froze. She took a small step closer, close enough that I could feel her heartbeat through her dress. "I hate it," she repeated, "because I shouldn't." I could barely breathe. "Then tell me to stop." Her eyes met mine. "You wouldn't." Silence. Then I said low, "Try me." Her hand moved up, slow, trembling, to my jaw. The room felt smaller, the rain louder. She leaned in until I could feel the warmth of her breath, her lips a breath away from mine. "Evan," she whispered. Then a sharp knock hit the door. We both froze, eyes wide. A voice on the other side. The gallery director, cheerful, oblivious. "Clara? Light's still on in there." She stepped back, fast, hands shaking. "I can't," she whispered. "Not like this." But the way she looked at me, like she already had, said everything else. The next morning, she didn't come to the studio. No message, no explanation, just silence. By noon, the absence had a weight to it. Everyone noticed, though no one said anything. Around 3, I found her. Not in her classroom, not in the gallery, but outside, in the small covered courtyard where the rain had washed the air clean. She was sitting alone on the stone bench, coat draped around her shoulders, staring at nothing. When she saw me, her mouth tightened. "You shouldn't be here." I ignored it. "You disappeared. I needed air. Is that what you call it?" She looked up at me then, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Don't do this, Evan." "Do what?" "Act like you have the right to ask." That stung, and she knew it. But under her calm voice, I could hear something unsteady, a tremor she couldn't hide. I sat beside her anyway, not too close. The cold from the stone crept through my jeans, grounding me. Did I do something wrong? She didn't answer right away. Then she said quietly, "Someone saw us." My breath caught. "What?" "After the storm. When you left." She looked at her hands. "The director's assistant." She saw me close the door. The words hit like a drop of ice down my spine. "She asked me this morning," Clara went on, "if you were staying late again tonight. Did you tell her?" I told her no. A pause. I told her there's nothing between us. There was clean, simple, cruelly final. I tried to laugh it off, but it came out thin. Guess that's that then. She turned, eyes sharp now. Don't make it sound like I wanted to lie. Didn't you? The silence that followed was worse than shouting. A breeze pushed through the courtyard, stirring the leaves. Her hair brushed my arm, and for a moment, neither of us breathed. Then she said it, almost to herself. I told her there's nothing between us, but I couldn't make myself believe it. That undid me. I reached out before I could stop myself, fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. The contact was tiny, skin on skin, pulse against pulse, but it felt like everything. Clara, I said, voice low, you don't have to keep pretending. Her eyes glistened, but her expression didn't soften. If they find out, I lose everything. My job, my reputation. I've already lost enough. I don't care what they think. You should. She leaned in, her voice breaking. Because I do. Because this, she gestured between us, isn't supposed to happen. And yet she didn't move away. Her shoulder brushed mine, her breath close enough to taste the warmth of it. I could feel her shaking, from cold or fear I didn't know. I told myself I wouldn't see you tonight, she whispered. Then why are you here? Her eyes met mine, full of something that was equal parts terror and want. Because I can't stay away anymore. The words landed between us like a match on dry ground, and neither of us moved to put it out. That night, the sky was still bruised from rain when I went back to the studio. I didn't plan to. I just ended up there like a hand turning a doorknob before the mind catches up. The lights were low. Only the small lamp over her desk was on. Clara was sitting there, coat still on, a half-empty mug beside her. She didn't look surprised to see me, just tired in a way that felt honest. I knew you'd come, she said quietly. I closed the door behind me. Then why are you still here? She didn't answer. Instead, she stood slowly, the chair scraping softly against the floor. Because I wanted to see if you would. For a moment, neither of us moved. The air was thick, humming with everything unsaid. I meant what I said earlier, she murmured. If anyone finds out, they won't, I said. You can't know that. Then tell me to leave. Her breath caught. She looked at me for a long time, as if searching for a reason she didn't actually want to find. You don't make it easy, she said finally. I stepped closer. I'm not trying to. The distance between us disappeared slowly, like gravity doing its work. She stayed still, not resisting, not inviting, just standing there every second tighter than the one before. I hate that this feels right, she whispered. Then stop it. Her eyes lifted to mine. You wouldn't let me. She was right. The rain started again outside, soft against the windows. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, mixed with turpentine and something warmer. Her skin, her breath. Clara, I said, barely above a whisper. Tell me what you want. Her hand trembled when she reached up, fingertips grazing the side of my face, slow, uncertain. Then she stepped in, close enough that the hem of her coat brushed my jeans, close enough that I could feel the tremor of her breath against my throat. This isn't fair to you, she said. I get to decide that. She laughed once, quietly, a sound caught between relief and defeat. Her forehead rested against mine, and for a moment, the world narrowed to the rhythm of our breathing. I've been alone a long time, she confessed. I forgot what it's like to be seen. You're not invisible to me, I said. Something shifted in her eyes. The fight, the fear, all softening into something unguarded. She leaned in, almost kissing me, then stopped just shy. Her hand on my jaw, mine finding her waist. The pause between us felt endless, that fragile second before everything changes. If I do this, she whispered, I can't pretend it didn't happen. Then don't pretend. She exhaled, eyes closing. For the first time, she didn't pull away. When our foreheads touched again, it wasn't hesitation anymore. It was surrender. No words. Just two people finally running out of reasons not to. The kiss didn't need to happen for both of us to know. The line was already crossed. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady. Whatever happens now, she said, we stop lying to them, to ourselves. And I nodded, because we both knew the truth. The choice had already been made. Morning light found the studio before either of us spoke. Soft gray through the blinds, painting the room in quiet. The brushes were still on the table where we'd left them, the smell of rain still clinging to the air. Clara sat on the edge of the desk, coffee cup in both hands, hair undone in a way I'd never seen before. Loose reel. I stood across from her, trying to find words that didn't sound too small for the night we just crossed. "So," I said finally, uselessly. She looked up, half smiling. "So." The silence that followed wasn't the same kind as before. It wasn't heavy, just full, like the kind that settles when you finally stop running from something. "Do you regret it?" I asked. Her eyes softened. "Do you?" I shook my head. "Not for a second." She exhaled, a quiet sound that might have been relief. "Then no, I don't either." For a while we just sat there. The city hummed faintly outside. Cars, birds, the scrape of someone unlocking the gallery door below. The world was still moving, unaware of the small storm that had passed through this room. "I keep thinking about what you said," she murmured. "About not pretending anymore." I meant it. Her fingers traced the rim of the cup, slow, thoughtful. "You realize this won't be easy." I smiled faintly. "When has anything worth it ever been?" That earned a small laugh. She set the mug down and crossed the floor to me, hesitating only once before reaching for my hand. Her fingers threaded through mine, cool at first, then warm, fitting together in a way that felt inevitable. "I don't know what happens next," she admitted, "but I want to find out." I nodded. "Then we start there." She leaned into me, slow, careful, her head resting against my chest. I wrapped my arms around her, the gesture quiet but solid. She smelled like paint and soap and rain. My heartbeat felt too loud, but she didn't seem to mind. "I used to think love had an expiration date," she said softly. "That after a certain point, you just learn to live without it. And now—" She tilted her head up just enough to meet my eyes. "Now I think maybe it just changes shape." I brushed a thumb across her cheek, the corner of her mouth curving against my hand. "I think it just waits," I said. Her smile deepened, small, certain, and real. Outside, the clouds broke open, light spilling in across the floorboards. Neither of us moved for a long time. The world didn't end. No one walked in. It was just quiet. Two people who'd stopped fighting what they already knew. She looked up one last time. "We'll figure it out," she said. And somehow, I believed her. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?